Welcome to Moss Marketing Mondays, aka the M3 Podcast. Brought to you by Moss Marketing Group, bringing you everything marketing every Monday. Stay tuned for marketing tips and tricks you can use today. The M3 Podcast, marketing knowledge to help you succeed. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the M3 Podcast. We've already had our, I'd say normally 15-minute warm-up, but it's been like a 45-minute warm-up. And we have Dre, Ricky, good friend of mine, Michael Munsterman. Thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
And he actually also has a podcast, so I have very high hopes for what he's going to be on here. He's very well spoken and everything, so
no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. I'm just starting off.
It's all downhill from here.
So look, here's the thing. First of all, it's the Bulletproof Mafia with Michael Munsterman. It's on iTunes. Check it out.
Link below.
But secondly, we've been drinking bourbon for like 45 minutes. There are no promises on my ability to articulate. Zero.
It could be an hour in and we could all just be asleep.
I have no idea what's going to happen. You want to snuggle?
I think that'd be nice.
I have some fellows over here. So having a podcast, what's the Bulletproof Mafia about?
Yeah. So, it's cool. When I thought about what I wanted in a podcast, I wanted just to share, similar to what you guys are doing, right? Like you have this circle of influence that you're trying to share what you've done. You said to me earlier, like if somebody wanted to start a company, all they have to do is do everything that we're telling them because we're telling them everything. And so for me, I came from absolute trash beginnings. Nothing was given to me. I was a poor kid from a poor neighborhood. Not smart. I wasn't the best student at all. I wasn't a good learner. I wasn't there just was lots of things gapped and missing in my childhood that most people would probably assume that I came from a pedigree family, right? And so I thought, man, if I would just share what it takes to be successful, not just in business, but in my physicality, in my relationship with God, in my family, what the kind of the four pillars of our life, right? Like faith, family, fitness, finance. I want to take those items and I want to share how I do those things successfully. And that's what the Bulletproof Mafia is. It's bulletproofing your life. And the mafia part is about this mafia mindset when it comes to our family. Like the rest of the world can fuck entirely off. There's this little core group of people that I'm going to protect with my life. And
cool.
And that's what it is. Yeah.
I like it. So you also don't just do a podcast.
I wish that's all I did.
That would be legit.
Yes.
You own Munsterman Automotive Group, and it is an automotive car dealership out of Blue Springs, Missouri. Mm-hmm. And you've been in that, and you've also been in a lot of other business models.
That's right.
And I think that's where I feel like that's where you and I hit it off so much in the beginning. And we knew each other in the car space, and then we've known each other ever since I left the car space.
Right.
I feel like you're one of those people I've stayed in contact with. We've always been friends. We've bounced ideas off of each other. And I tell Ricky, if we're going out to Munsterman Automotive Group and, if we're going to meet with Michael, set aside some time. It's going to be a little bit.
We're going to be out there for an afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just very much respect a lot of the business things that come off of what you've done in the past and what you've built and what you've positioned yourself into where you're at now.
Yeah.
What are some of those other business models that you've built and created and to put yourself where you're at now? Yeah.
So, first of all, just thinking about that as a question, I guess the very first thing.
That's a very loaded question.
Yeah, it's so loaded. It's so large. Lots of different things, lots of different paths we could take with that. So what I'll do is I'll give you the 5-minute synopsis, right? And I'll keep it less than 5 minutes, but.
No, it can be 5 minutes. We got plenty of time.
All we have is time. We have an hour, 1 full hour. We've got to figure this shit out.
We can go over by a little bit.
Yeah. No. So, I barely graduated high school, right? This is kind of my mark of, I share this with lots of people. I graduated high school with a 1.9 GPA.
D's get degrees.
C's and D's get degrees. Right, exactly. But here's the thing. I recognized at a really young age that I could figure out how the teacher graded work, what their expectations were, and how to squeak by with a barely pass without any of the stress and pressure of how do I like, I don't want to go home and do homework at night. I don't want to dick with reading these chapters of shit that's like not going to influence my role.
I don't know.
You need to know the Pythagorean theorem.
I have no idea what that shit is. Don't even care.
It doesn't help with building a business at all.
At all. And so but it was a mistake, right? Like I didn't put any stock in education that young. I was a relational creature from a young age. I cared more about building relationship and conversation. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be popular, and I didn't, and I wasn't. But that's what I wanted. I jonesed for it. I wanted to care about people, and I wanted people to care about me back. And I didn't give a shit about grades. And so I barely graduate, 1.9 GPA, right? Like I met my wife young. I didn't want to go to college. I didn't give a shit about that. I wanted to be a good, my wife had a little girl when we got married, and I thought, man, I don't want them to suffer because she's settling for some dumb high school, barely graduated idiot, right? And so right out of high school, I started to sprint. I looked for opportunity, and it's funny, my wife and I'm still married to her. I was 18 when I had this conversation, maybe 19. We were going to break up. She quit taking my calls, like wouldn't talk to me. And I went to my grandpa, and I'm like, Grandpa, this woman's crazy.
They all are.
What's her problem? And you asked about my business ventures, but this will make sense, right? Right. No, you're exactly right. But Grandpa said something to me, and it was this mic drop moment. And he said, lad, you're a dumbass. She's a woman. She has a kid. You're unemployed. You're a loser. You have nothing. You got a little bit of an inheritance from your dad dying when you were young, and you think that that's going to take care of you? Like, you're an absolute idiot. That 50 grand will run out quicker than you can blink, and she recognizes she wants a man. And I'm like, I don't know where to get a job. And he goes, well, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to tell you exactly where to go to get a job. You go get a job, and when you get hired there, it's going to be you and 13 Mexicans. But when you get hired, you come back, and I'm going to tell you the next thing that I want you to take with you the rest of your life. And so he sent me to a hog processing facility. I'm 18 years old. I'm unemployed. This girl won't return my calls. I'm thinking we're done. Whatever. I need a job. I guess I got to make money. Stupid. No, it's true.
Life's hitting.
Yeah. Right. Like,
That's what being an adult's like. I think it sucks.
like, just fuck all of this noise. And he sends me to PSF, Premium Standard Farms. They gut hogs. I got hired that day, me and 13 Mexicans and one other country bumpkin. And I was put on the kill floor. So we processed 6,700 hogs a day.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot of hog guts falling. But anyway, so I went back to Grandpa, like he said. He's right. And he's like, my grandpa made me the longest standing promise of my life. When my dad died, I was 7 years old, and he took me in his arms and he said, lad, I'm going to take care of you. And so this man that had kept that promise all the way up to 18, 19, right? Like, he looks at me and he says, so you got hired? I said, yes. He goes, how much are they going to pay you? I said, $12 an hour. He's like, wow, that's good money. This is 1999. And he said, if you quit that job without bettering yourself, you're not ever welcome back at my house. You're dead to me.
He's like, that hit hard.
Yeah, whoa, shit. And so for the rest of your life, this is the only rule. You never quit without bettering yourself. You never make a move without it being better. You never step out without an opportunity for better. And so I just took that advice. And I went from a hog farm to Radio Shack. I was the top salesman at Radio Shack selling cell phones and laptops.
R.I.P. Radio Shack.
Yeah, right. No, for sure. And from Radio Shack, one of the owners of so the ownership of that particular franchise split, and one of the owners grabbed me and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna open a computer store. I'll make you a partner." I'm like, "Yeah, let's do that." And somewhere along that journey, I ended up I sold cars and I quit selling cars to buy my first business. My first business was a sign shop.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I sold the sign shop for a profit. Love that. 1 year later, and I learned, wow, man, you can take a business, you can grow a business, you can sell a business, and make more money selling the business than you made making signs for the entire last 24 months of your life. This is a good deal.
So we opened another sign shop.
Yeah, right down the street.
I sold that sign shop. Now
funny.
I'm here.
The sign shop bit me, went on a no compete later in the story, but no, like again, you said I had time, so I'm. But
You're all good.
No, I love it. Like,
yeah,
that was my biggest fault to the podcast in the beginning. Was my girlfriend Madison? She is the biggest critique of the podcast. Right. So she listens to it weekly, and then she tells me everything I did wrong on the podcast and what I need to do better.
Right.
So in the beginning, I was really good at like just blowing right into business, marketing. That's what it's going to be about. And then she's like, people want to know like the background of who's on there.
Just because you know the guest doesn't mean everybody listening knows.
Exactly. So I just had that assumption in my head. I'm like, oh, everyone knows Michael Munsterman. Like, why
they do. I'm kind of a big deal.
So now I've went much more into the first, I don't know, probably 50% of the podcast is figuring out that story. Why is someone going to, everyone has a story of what's led them to where they're at now.
Right.
And I think that's what makes people, you working at that hog farm is what has made you to what you are today.
Well, it's certainly a start.
It was definitely
a shitty start.
Literally a shitty start. But it's like all those things that I think a lot of people take away from on that story that pushes that next level. And it's, once again, always bettering yourself to do a little bit, even if it's a little bit. Like that was kind of my deal in the car space too, is if I had a salesperson, I mean, I was running 10 sales guys all the time. If I had somebody come to me that had just a phenomenal job offer and everything to go better their lives, their families' lives, everything like that, I mean, I would shake their hand. I'd tell them like, hell yeah.
Go get it.
Do it. But then sometimes people would come to you with just a complete off the wall offer. And then I'm like, you're definitely going backwards on that. Like, I don't think that's the right move.
Sure.
And it's kind of one of the same things when I started Moss Marketing Group. It was the first like 6 months. I was like, hey, was this the right move? Like, I was making great money in the car space. Like, I was doing all these, I didn't have much of a life.
Right.
I was making great money, but it was like all of a sudden, as it's like progressed, after that like 6 month mark, I was like, this was definitely the right move. But it's like right out the gate, that initial spot of betting on yourself, things like that. What led you into that original, like, because what your grandpa told you was to always take that next step.
Sure.
Where was that one that step was different? It wasn't a step up. I guarantee it was a step down to here that led to a step way, way, way higher.
Yeah, no. And
I might be wrong on that.
No, it's a great question. And it's true. Like, look, so I've probably been in a dozen different industries, some successfully, some not successfully. And every single time there is that step. So the way that I pictured it as a dumb 19-year-old, when Grandpa said that to me, I thought, ooh, lily pad. I can't jump off this lily pad unless I can see the next lily pad that I'm going to land on, and it's bigger. And then what I realized as I progressed was as we were evolving and as I was making moves, that there was something, there's twofold. The first is that logically we want to think we have it all figured out. We know what it takes to make money. But then there's a spiritual side to this conversation, right? Like, for me, in 2005, I became a Christian. And when I gave my life to Christ, then there became this spiritual side to the conversation. The conversation wasn't just intellectually, what do I think is the next best move? in my heart, I felt like, man, like where's my heart pulling me? And so I was a conductor on the railroad. I had made the moves, right? I went to Grandpa, I justified it. I'm like, look, I know I've been working for myself, but I'm like, I don't like the risk. I don't like the hustle. I just want to know that I'm going to have a retirement and a good pay and a pension and all of the benefits. And Grandpa was like, you know, I'm speaking Grandpa's language right now, right?
I got the safety net. It's here.
I'm gonna own a real nice Chevy pickup. I'm gonna have a good payment, a good interest rate, and I'm gonna have that railroad job. And so Grandpa was all for that shit. And so I was on the railroad, but the guy, way back in the story, which is why I started way back there, the guy that the partnership split and he opened that computer store, he asked me to be his partner, he would call me. Once a week, that guy would call me. You're the biggest waste of talent on the entire railroad. You're gonna retire on the railroad. Oh, your life's gonna.
I would have blocked that dude's fucking number.
Dude, I wanted to punch this guy in the fucking head, but the truth is that he had seen me sell. He knew that I could communicate. He knew that I could recognize that in every single person, in every single transaction, there was a gap. And that I could salt the wound of that gap. The gap is the pain point for the client, right? And I could see that gap. I could salt it subtly. I could make it really fucking painful emotionally and mentally for the client. And then I would say, ooh, but I have a bridge. And I can get you right across that gap, and I'm your guy. And so he had seen that. So he knew that I had the ability to communicate to somebody and to offer them a solution to the problem that they had, and I could close them way more often than I lost them.
Which, in the sales side, like I am a firm believer in sales comes into every aspect of any business.
Everything.
If you can bridge that gap to solving someone's problem,
you get paid.
Always.
So money is a measuring stick for the value you add to the marketplace.
Correct.
Period. Dot. The end. People think money makes me rich. Money is bumming. Look, money's a fucking ruler. The more value you add to the world, the more your value add is measured in the form of currency. Like,
mic drop. There
podcast over.
Guess we're done.
No,
Sign
but
off.
the dude would call me and he's like, "You're the biggest waste of talent on the railroad. You're the biggest waste of talent on the railroad. You're the biggest waste." And so one day I got pissed off. So what he didn't know is I was on the train, and trains are typically a two-man crew. There's a conductor and there's the engineer. Conductor's responsible for the load and the count and where things are going and why. They watch the signs that go by to make sure that the engineer is operating correctly. The engineer is the one that actually moves the knobs on the train. And so I went to Choo Choo U out here at Johnson County Community College here in the greater Kansas City area, and I'd learned how to become a conductor. Well, this engineer was 80-some years old, not literally, but to a 20-year-old guy, he seemed like an old fucker. And so this guy's sitting next to me. I'm
don't
like,
let Dre laugh at you like that.
Yeah, don't laugh at me. Dre.
You're not that old, don't worry.
Dick. but like I felt like he was really old and he, you know, pot-bellied, been on the railroad for 30 years, whatever. He knew all of the signals and we could see the same signals. And he threw a cup of water at me on that train that day. He's like, "Why don't you pay the F attention?" and throws the cup of water across the cabin. And, you know, like as a young 20-something-year-old guy, you know, you could beat the bricks off of a 50-something-year-old, 60-something-year-old fat guy. And so
maybe depend.
Yeah, but in this case, I promise, like sloshy kind of guy. And so I'm sitting there and fuming, and I get this phone call, and it's this guy, and I'm like, God. So I take it. I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm talking to the biggest waste of talent on the railroad." I'm drenched from this water cup, right? And I said, "Dude, fuck off. Don't ever call me again and give me this shit unless you have a solution." And this guy was 30 years my senior. Like, this was an older guy too. That I respected, I really liked, but I hated how much shit he gave me. And I hung up on him, and I thought, he's never going to call me again. I just kicked him right in his pride. This guy died this last year. But anyway, So 2 weeks later, like, first of all, I left. Like, I got to the hotel room. I'm in the hotel room. This is right after I had become a Christian and really took that to heart and recognized, I swear. So some people struggle with, I choose to swear and I believe that Jesus is my savior, but whatever. Like you're not going to judge me. So I just want to clarify that for anybody that's like, oh, he's a hypocrite. Okay. You are too. So anyway, I get to the hotel room, I get down on my knees, I start to cry. Like, literally I'm sobbing, and I'm like, God, you have something bigger for me in this world than this. Like, I'm ready. Like, this is painful because I feel like he's right and I hate him because he's right, but I don't see it. And so 2 weeks later, my phone rings and it's the same guy. And I'm like, I never thought this guy would call me again. And he calls me and he says, and I almost don't take it, and I take it. I got the old razor. I don't know if you guys know what a razor is.
The little flip phone.
The little badass, skinny little flip phone. I used to sell them. I sold the shit out of those things. But anyway, I flip my flip phone open. I go, yeah. And he goes, don't hang up. I know I've been giving you a hard time. Have you ever heard of an infrared heater? Now, I'm not going to bore you with the details of the rest of this story, but within 60 days of that phone call, I quit the railroad. And within 5 years of that phone call, I sold $250 million worth of those infrared heaters.
Was Grandpa still alive at this time?
Yeah.
What did he say when you quit the railroad?
Who, buddy? That's a great question.
That's
a different podcast.
Yeah.
I feel like we have very much as we didn't have that grandpa figure. Like, I have a lot of friends that they were like, my grandpa was the one that was like, I wish that we would have had that in our lives. But it was like, our dad was that figure across so many levels. Right. When we go do things, he's like, certain things it felt like it was a lecture and certain things weren't. Like, when I went to buy my house, like, I made an offer on a house. I was like already pre-approved. I was ready to go. My dad didn't know I was looking at houses.
Oh, no.
He tells me, he's like, yeah.
I'm like, I told Dre,
on a house. He's like, I'm about to tell Dad. I'm like, oh.
I'm like,
yeah, fun, bud.
I'm like, you want to go out? You want to go out and have lunch? And it's like, it leads into this whole deal where I'm like, I want you to come look at something. I'm buying it. I don't want to lecture. I go, I know what I'm doing. Like, you have led me to this point in my life. I feel like I'm making the right move. And we go, like, look at this house, and he's like, this large house, you think you can furnish it all? Like, we already have it all bought, like, paid for up front. It's being delivered the day we move in. Like, he's like, really? But it's just like, I'm like, you led me to exactly where we're at.
Right.
And it's like, I feel like a lot of times at those pivotal points, when you make that, I feel like that's the step. A lot of times when I left the car business to open up Moss Marketing Group, I feel like it was nerve-wracking for me because I'm like, I have no earthly idea what the future holds for me. But I'm like, if I'm going to bet on something, I'm going to bet on myself. And I am 100% sure that I'm going to make this whatever I want it to be. No one can tell me differently. And it was like right out the gate, I could tell my dad was like super nervous on it.
Was he?
I feel like he had like known that I was like, it could happen. But I feel like right out the gate because we opened up Moss Marketing Group 2 days before, or I opened up Moss Marketing Group 2 days before COVID hits. Everything closes down. So
then he's going through all of his processes, and he's like, that's different than everyone.
So I pretty much sat down with I'm like, that was the one person I had that I bounced everything off of.
Yeah.
So I sit down with him. I bounce all these ideas off of him. He's like, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Like, I'm going to do all these things different. I'm not going to do contracts. I'm not going to do all this like every other marketing company. Mm-hmm. And after it started catching traction and it started working, he's like, I think you got something. But it's like just that old school kind of thing that I think it's crazy that everyone kind of has that, like, I don't want to say everyone. Most people have that person in their life.
Yeah.
That one person that tells him it's okay or it's not. And I feel like when you make a move like that and you say, hey, I'm quitting the railroad.
I feel like that was not one he was okay with, but I feel like
that was probably the biggest move you ever made.
Was the biggest move I ever made.
Yeah.
And you're right. But also too, right? Like I had demonstrated the rule. Grandpa wasn't threatening to truly step out of my life forever. He was trying to wake me up.
Yeah, and it's
like I was 19 when he had that conversation, and I made this decision when I was 25, 26.
Which I think at that, like, I mean, that spot, if I came to my dad say I was going to do this at 19, he would, like, we were required to go to college. Like, that's what it was. Like,
good.
We went to high school. We did well in high school. Like, I'm not going to say that we had some, like, hard upbringing. We didn't. And like,
that's okay.
That's the thing is, like, I feel like so many of these people, like, you guys have, like, a work ethic and all this. Like, what was that story behind them? Like, we had a great fucking childhood. Like, our parents got divorced, and that was fucking shitty as hell. Mm-hmm. But it was what it was. I never let it get to us. But it's also, our upbringing wasn't terrible. Like, we did very well in school.
But your dad's a hustler. Like, right? And somebody you look up to.
100%. And it's like, I very much respect his opinion. Even today, like, I talk to him almost every single day when I drive home from work.
And he also started those businesses.
He did that
through
stuff.
That very similar thing where he's like, got into this business, got out, got into this, passed that along to someone else so that could be theirs. Got into another business. And he's like, if there's a light, he's like, I'll chase the light.
Yeah.
And he's like, maybe that light was a lot further away or that light was painted a lot brighter than what it really was. But he's like, if there's a light, I'll chase it.
Yeah.
And he's been successful in everything.
Right.
But that's where he raised us, where he's like, if you're going to start something, be the best. He's like, if you're not, don't do it.
So at that point,
it's a 50-50. If you don't want to put it all into it, don't do it.
Right.
You go do something else.
Right. Either drink bourbon or go be one of those pussies that drink Busch Light.
I don't know who the fuck he's looking at.
I will say I drink bourbon and Busch Light.
I'm totally giving you shit.
We don't need that type of negativity.
Do you want me to go?
Safe place.
All right. This is a safe place. You laughed at me for being old. I haven't let that shit go.
So it's 26 years old. You say, hey, you know what? I'm out of the railroad. What does Grandpa say at that point?
So I didn't ask his permission. Just frankly,
I feel like sometimes when the answer, same thing when I was buying a house. When you know the answer is not exactly what you're looking for, you almost like, I'm just going to do it and then I'm going to see what's that.
Better to do and ask for forgiveness later.
Here's what I knew, right? Like 25 years old, I was $300,000 in debt. Like I had made some terrible decisions as a human. I was married. I had 2 kids. I wanted a different life for them. And I looked at every single person I worked with on the railroad, and there's some good dudes that work on the railroad, but none of them had the life or the freedom that I wanted.
And I feel like life is one thing, and then freedom is 95% of that pie that you're looking for.
Well, life is freedom.
Yes.
Or life is captivity. Like you're either trapped or like it's just so Robert Kiyosaki designed this this game that not everybody knows about. Everybody knows about Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? Mm-hmm. Like everybody's read that, but nobody's ever played Rat Race. Rat Race is the game that he designed, and it's so true. You're either caught in the rat race on the inside of his game board, trading time for money or energy for money or whatever, or you step out of it and you live an entirely different life.
I'm going to say we had a few technical difficulties for a second, and we're back.
This commercial break has been brought to you by the Bulletproof Mafia with Michael Munsterman on iTunes.
We can cut that, don't worry.
Yeah.
Thanks, Trey.
Yeah, so we were talking about, you had asked me if I went to Grandpa, right? Mm-hmm. And the thing is, I didn't, because I didn't have anything to lose. I was $300,000 in debt. My marriage was in crumbles. Like I was that's not true. My marriage was that was right on the other side of me making a decision to change my life. And I became a Christian, and so my marriage was actually really good. My faith was really good. My career made my stomach hurt. And this guy had been tormenting me. And so, you know, I didn't go to Grandpa. I said to my wife, I'm like, look, I'm going to sell heaters with this guy. And the railroad was kind of cool because you could position yourself to get laid off. And so the way that it works is you put yourself on a board and you're saying, hey, I want to work in this community. But if you don't have enough seniority, you get kicked off the board, and they call that you just got laid off. So you have to sign back up to another board within the next 60 or 90 days. What I did was I thought, well, what if I put myself on a board that I know that I can't hold, I get kicked off, now I've got 90 days to step out here and go do this thing and see if I can do it. So I told my wife, like, before I want to start buying and selling these heaters, I want to sell them for this guy. And so I'm going to get laid off of the railroad, and I'm going to start selling these things to make sure I can. And I crushed it. He was right. And it was easy. Like, selling's easy.
Yeah.
People want to be sold. They don't think they do, but they want to be sold.
It's the human nature.
It's human. Like, you've been taught to say no your whole life, but you've been groomed to be agreeable your whole life. And grooming is more impressive than what you've been told. So we just have to connect with somebody on the level of that grooming of, look, you want to be agreeable. You're nodding right now. I'm not even shaking my head, but this is what I'm going to do in the car business.
Can I buy a heater?
I would love to buy a heater.
Look.
As you can tell, it's cold in here.
Right,
I would love a heater.
You're the only one wearing a hoodie.
So the way an infrared heater works is this. No, I'm not kidding. 800 to 1,000 square feet for pennies a day.
If I had a favorite heater, it would be infrared.
It would be the one that I would sell you. But
Has this turned into a heater podcast?
no, but look, like I didn't need
Ricky
to tell.
doesn't need the hoodie.
I
It's
didn't-
an infrared hoodie.
Yeah, it's an infrared hoodie. But I went to, like, literally, we built an empire around selling $500 space heaters. Like, that's it.
So you were selling to consumer or other businesses?
Direct to consumer
So $500 space heaters in 05.
in 08.
Oh, wait.
08.
I think that's a pretty expensive space heater.
It was an expensive space heater. A $500 space heater today's an expensive
Yeah.
space heater. But it wasn't a space heater. We postured it as a portable furnace. And it was direct to consumer.
Yeah. Have you seen what those? What are those, like, pellet style heaters?
Pellet stoves.
Yeah, those things are like $4,000.
Oh, those are great. Yeah.
Exactly, but
This
if
is
you
not
can-
was that.
if you
This
can-
wasn't that.
If you can finesse it in a different space,
So is it like
So-
a decorative heater?
It was a wooden, like, it doesn't matter.
I'm curious.
Like-
It looks like a fireplace.
tell me-
now we're
No.
intrigued. We all want to buy
No,
a heater.
that was the so
We're all nodding yes.
What happened? Like, and like I'll go here for just a second. Our product was a 1,500 watt, plugs into a regular outlet. It had a thermostat you turned on and set to a certain temperature and it acted just like your furnace. When the temperature fell below a certain temperature, the thermostat called for heat, the heater heated up, and it warmed the room up. A blower kicked on, it sucked cold air in, heated it up, pushed it back out in the room without drying the air out. And so all we did as salespeople was we would do a total market saturation. I would pick a small town in Missouri. So and I'm talking small town, like Unionville, Missouri, population 350 people. I called a local appliance store. I said, hey, if you will let me, I want to advertise your business in the community newspaper. We're going to put 8.5 by 11, canary yellow, like the brightest yellow, single sheet insert in the paper with your business name on it. We're going to sell a product in your store. It's $400 a product, $400 to $500, and I'm going to give you a $40 commission on every one we sell. We typically sell 40 to 60 of these a day when we run these ads. I had never had my own sale. I had never sold one. Unionville was my first sale. There were only 342 people in the town, and the little appliance store there couldn't imagine that I was going to sell 5, but they thought, if this guy sells 5 and pays us $40 a copy, we make $200. That's more than we've made all week. Hell yeah, come on with it.
What's that guy have to lose?
Right. They didn't have anything to lose.
He's like, you're putting up all the
Hey.
money.
That's a $100 million offer right there.
It's a $100 million offer.
There's people that wrote books about that shit.
Listen, I'm telling you. Oh, by the way, it's on Amazon. It's called Savvy. When I grow up, I want to be rich. That's the book that I wrote about that. Yeah, but seriously. So we show up that day, first sale ever. I went to my father-in-law. I'm like, look, I know you have no reason to trust me, but if you'll loan me $60,000, I'll make you a 50-50 partner. We'll buy these heaters for $200 a piece. We'll sell them for $400. I'll split all the profit with you. I'll do all the work. I just need somebody to believe in me. And my father-in-law agreed that day off of the business plan that I drew on a napkin to give me a shot. And I said, Gene, if it fails, I'll spend the rest of my life paying you back that $60,000. I will not let this hurt you or your family. And that first year, we showed up to Unionville. That weekend, I had a sale planned on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Unionville, Macon, Moberly, Columbia. Those were the 4 sales. If you're familiar with North Central Missouri, that's a little loop I just made. And that first day we sold 86 heaters.
Whoa.
I made $17,000 my first day. Like that's 5 months, like it was 3 months on the railroad, whatever. It was a lot of money in a day. And I was like, fuck, man, we're going to be rich.
My printing machine just started.
Yeah. And that weekend we sold 200 heaters and we made $40,000. And here's the thing. Somebody would have been happy with that. By the end of that year, Gene and I, my father-in-law, we made each of us with the first couple months, maybe the first 6 weeks, it was just me and he collected the money and he was happy. I watched him just collecting the money. Dude, my father-in-law is equal in my life as a mentor to my grandfather. Those two guys believed in me. And anyway, like the end of that year, the two of us split $300K. He took 300. I got 300. And then the next year,
It's a good investment on his part.
it was a great investment on his part because that doesn't count him getting paid back that 60. Yeah, he got paid back his 60,
He's like, you got any other
and
business interest?
he charged me interest.
What else do
That
you want to sell?
gangster, that motherfucker.
We'll sell anything.
I'd say my little heater business made him somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million. But at the end of the year, I was riding the backseat of his car. His wife was in front of me, and he was driving. And I said, Gene, if 3 crews made us $600,000, what would 30 crews make us? And he just couldn't see it. He said, oh, Michael, I'm too old to even, I can't even fathom that. And so I went to that guy that had been calling me and bugging the shit out of me, right? Like he had been dinging me. You're a loser on the railroad. You're wasting talent, right? And I said, well,
This guy's number's still not blocked.
no. But what I didn't know about that guy on those calls, but what I found out later was he had taken a job as a sales manager for a infrared heater company. And so his whole game that whole time was to get me to buy a few heaters. And so I went to this guy and I'm like, look, like my father-in-law doesn't want to grow any bigger, and I think I should. And the company that you represent isn't doing a good job of, like, their distribution plan is messed up, and it's really hurting me. And I believe we could build an empire. And so, anyway, he said, your father-in-law's crazy. I'll be your partner. And I said, well, cool. I'm going to go to China, and I'm going to find a better product, or I'm going to get one built, and we're going to kick the shit out of this industry. And that's what I did. I went to Taipei, Taiwan, found a manufacturer, took the shit product and said, let's make it better. And over the course of the next 6 years, we just blew up. And that forced us to get into transportation. That forced us to get into, lots of different ancillary businesses to support this massive machine we were building. Similar to what you guys are doing here, right? You started as a marketing company. You're going to grow, because this is that thing that you figured out. If I do this and I do this, then it equals this. My responsibility, like I said earlier, is to add value to the marketplace. You're adding value by helping people realize that there are companies out there that have a product or service that they need. You're filling that void. You're helping these businesses reach their audiences, and you'll get better and better and better at that. You'll become more and more and more efficient at that. You'll build a reputation for that, but then you'll find out that there's these other businesses that you're paying somebody to do something that you really ought to just bring internally and do yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's when, like you said it, you hit it nail on the head, is when you're building a machine. When you're building that machine, there's so many other things that a machine doesn't run off of one part.
Right.
There's a lot of parts that make that machine run and operate, and it's when you start out, there's a grove of people saying, hey, this isn't the best idea, don't do this. Like, when there's, and I feel like that comes like relationship-wise, there becomes a lot of other factors that come into that since I've started Moss Marketing Group, the first person that sat there and said, hey, go do this was my girlfriend. Like Madison, I knew that she was the rock that was right there at the beginning, that she said, you can do whatever you want.
You say your wife?
Girlfriend right now.
Wife?
He's going to get kicked off the podcast.
Didn't you say earlier that
You're going to quote him?
Madison, you said earlier that Madison listens to every podcast?
She does.
So right now she's listening to this?
So.
And what she's going to want to hear is that she is the rocket fuel to your success.
She is. Great news is Ricky can edit it out.
I'm going to send her that directly.
Yeah.
I will 100% say that she was the rocket fuel that drove this. But sometimes you have to get that one person that when I have 99 people telling me like, hey, play it safe, play it safe, play it safe. And she's like, you know what, I'm betting on you with you.
I got 99 problems, but she ain't one.
No, but it's like she said like, go do it.
Yeah.
And then when you all of a sudden you step to go do this, then it becomes a whole nother beast that you take on.
Right.
In the beginning, it sounds great and all, like,
easy.
Yeah, you know what, I'm gonna bet on myself. Like, I got it.
Go.
Easy. And all of a sudden all these accounts start coming, then you're like, I gotta hire people. Like, then it becomes this other thing, and then it's like, now so I found this other demand in market. Like, I need to fulfill this. And it's like, it just keeps scaling. And it's like, there's not a, I don't know, really set mark on where you're going with it. And you keep finding these voids in market. When we start, we thought we had this one void in market. Like, we're going to fix this problem and this is what we're going to fix. Then all of a sudden you start finding the whole space that we're in, the whole space is a void.
We thought this sector, if we can fix this all over the country, you're butter. And then we started fixing that. It's like, well, in this industry, there's this void. It's like, well, that's not really that hard to fix either. Fix that. And then all of a sudden, another industry, like, and there's this void. It's like, okay, we can fix that too. And it's not something where it's 100% completely left when everything's right. You're still sitting there. It's like, it's all still in the same direction of what we're doing to fill the void on the first one. But it's just
you're running parallel paths to what they're doing. Sure. And it's very much it leads into Edit Yeti on what Edit Yeti is doing. I've had up to probably 15 to 20 business models brought to me to partner with since I've started Moss Market Group. All of a sudden we saw all this success. We're hiring people. We're doing all this. Then all of a sudden all these people come out of the woodwork from left field that's like, we need to partner. We need to do this. We need to do this. We need to do this. I'm like, that has absolutely nothing to do with what Moss Marketing Group does. Not going to mess with it. Not going to mess with it. And I turn down things left and right. And there's a scalability side, but then it's Edit Yeti comes in and says, hey, this is something that can run completely parallel to Moss Marketing Group, that they can vice versa all the way up. To where it's, I feel like too many entrepreneurs, things like that, if you're doing space heaters and some guy comes to you like, hey, I want you to sell boats at Lake of the Ozarks, and I want you to sell Ferraris in Florida and sell Honda Accords in California. None of those things match whatsoever, but it's like it becomes to where you're too spread out, you're too wide finned, and you can do well at all of them, but you're not going to be the best at any of them.
Right.
So all those things kind of happen. So I mean, that's one kind of ending up in left field, but it's in the relevance of keeping everything in lane.
No, absolutely.
And I feel like you have done something that you've kept everything. You've done things outside of it, but that business mindset runs right in the middle. You did heaters. You end up in the car space, but the car space is still directly correlated to the sales side of it, to where that's what led you. I'm assuming that's what led you into that space. So you're like, yeah, I have this sales ability. This is a void in the market that I can go capture very easily. Assuming, I know there's a restaurant in there somewhere too.
Right. Yeah, no, look, at the end of the day, the heater company was exhausting. It gave me a master's in international business.
I'll say there's very few people that probably have that.
Right. Like I joke about the 1.9 GPA, right? But I was in a room one time at a conference table with a guy that had graduated Harvard Business School, and another guy was a Yale guy, and another guy was wherever. Pedigree. And I realized I'm the dumbest guy at the table. And I left that day realizing the fallacy of my childhood, that I had dropped the ball in education. And so ever since that day, like I can tell you the day, I can tell you the year, I can tell you the guys sitting around the table, like Ben Cohen. He's the one that he was a Jewish, like he was Oric. He owned Oric Canada, Oric the vacuum cleaners.
Yep.
He owned Oric Canada. He had a master's degree from Harvard, like smart guy. And I was the dumbest guy at the table, and I thought I'm never going to feel this way again. And so since, it's been education.
But I will say, I like that you said Harvard in that, because this leads, I'll just do a small portion on this.
Yeah.
That I want to say it was Brad Lee that did a whole video on it, that there was a guy, starts a hot dog stand in New York. He has the best hot dogs in town, starts this deal, grows it, ends up with, I don't know, it's like 100-something hot dog stands.
Right.
His son goes to Harvard, gets a business degree at Harvard, leaves Harvard, comes back to his dad. His dad is hot dog stand empire. Says, you're spending way too much money on product. We need to cut money back on product. And he goes, the dad's rebuttal to that was, we start cutting back on product. And he goes, we're the same as everyone else. He goes, I don't think that would work. He's like, Dad, we spent fucking hundreds of thousands of dollars for me to go to school to come out with what I have.
Right.
We need to cut product, cost, everything like that. Then 2 years, he ends up back with less than 5 hot dog stands. But it was due to the dad had grown that because he saw a voided market for premium product, that people were willing to pay a premium price.
Right.
And travel to those locations, things like that. And then son goes to Harvard, says, hey, this is how it needs to be done, because that's what they told me at school.
Sure.
All of a sudden it doesn't work out. And then it's...
But also what you said was, you're sitting at a table with all these people. You're at the table.
No, it's true. But if you're sitting at the table and you don't understand what's being said.
So where did you go to high school?
So I went to high school in Brookfield, Missouri.
Okay. Dre's girlfriend is also from Brookfield.
Right.
Very small town up north.
Yeah, right.
So now...
Corn and cattle, and that's it.
How many people have done what they have done in their lifetime from Brookfield, Missouri,
A handful.
to place themselves at that table?
Sure.
So now all of a sudden it's like, that's where I look at things. Like, I end up at these tables, and sometimes I have I don't know what it is, that I just take a step back and I look at it from the outside in. I'm like, I'm from fucking Kearney, Missouri, and I'm like, I put myself at this table. Like, what have I done right to lead up to this?
Yeah, but I think that here's the thing, right? Like, you have to guard yourself from that. You have to guard yourself a little bit, just in my opinion, right? You have to guard yourself from the opinion of, oh, well, I'm here, I'm your equal. No,
not as in a plus. I'm not saying that as in like, I'm saying like I deserve to be here.
Right.
I'm saying the stars have aligned themselves
so that you're there.
To put me here at
And
some point
sometimes,
in my life.
and so for me in that moment, it wasn't ha, motherfucker, I'm here. Right? Like, what? Harvard up top, Yale up top. You guys, you guys own an empire in Utah and you own an empire in Canada and you all work for me. No. But although that's the truth.
Yeah.
That's those two guys sitting at that table had built companies and they were my distributors, distributing my product to their marketplace, following my model that I had developed and perfected and honed. But they started to talk about shit I didn't understand. Yeah. And in that moment, like I realized, like my responsibility, if I want to help as many people as I can, I have to educate myself on the operation of the machine. And so I could sit at that table and say, man, I'm here. My business partner, I knew I was in trouble. Like everything in my soul cringed because that guy that had called me on the railroad, right? Like him and I
want to clarify. I'm not saying that like, if we end up here and you three are multi-gajillionaires and I'm sitting here, it's not like I'm here, I finally made it.
Right. Yes.
It's here, I've done what I need to do to put myself in the right position at this point.
I look at that as you've stepped 2 steps onto the staircase.
Yes.
But there's a whole fucking staircase ahead.
Exactly. There's still way more to go. And I'm not saying I've made it to the top.
Right.
But I'm saying that I'm climbing those stairs to get to where I need to go.
This dude looked at me. We were it was 2010. In 2010, our little company had 500 employees coast to coast, 3 distribution centers, and we did $44 million in sales that year.
What a small company you had.
What a small company. I started that shit in my living room.
Very much like a small taco joint.
Right. 3.5 years before I started that company in my living room. Like, and he was scared to do it. So he talked some railroader into quitting his railroad job, talking his father-in-law into giving $60,000. And then when my father-in-law didn't want to grow, he offered to step in and be my partner. And I let him. And so...
Do you think he had a pivotal point in that growth to where you're at?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Like there's a divine touch, right?
Yep.
Like that dude is as responsible for my wealth today and the success I've had as I was for his. Okay. And like, sure, my father-in-law wasn't the right guy to take me where we went. He was. Like, again, I'm going to fall back to God, right? Like I have to give glory to my creator because like I'm just a dumb kid from Missouri. Like I was just in the right place, right time,
I would say
and blind enough to execute.
3 people on this couch are dumb kids from Missouri.
Right.
One of them is a dumb kid from Kids.
You're from Kansas?
I'm from Kansas.
All right. I'm sorry. At least not Arkansas.
Yeah.
That's true. It is better.
But you know that dude, like I'll tie this all together real quick. And because I know I'm going so long here. You wanted 30 minutes of about me, but we're almost like
we said 45.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
So
they haven't even wrote up another time on the board.
They
yet.
did. They did.
They might have lost
They
the marker.
slid in. but that guy sat next to me. Like I sat at that table and something was right in my head. And I thought I'm the dumbest guy at the table. Like I have to put a higher stock in educating myself on the things that matter. And so I had to learn the rules. It can't be I'm at the table. It's like there are these rules that I don't understand about business and commerce and sales and taxes and finance and leveraging a company and growing and scaling and winning at the game. Like there are these things that I don't understand that I need to understand so that I can really win.
Yeah.
And because of my ignorance, because that light came on so late, like, dude, if I today relive the same path that I lived then, right? Like
This is what you can tell yourself. This is a question I always ask people, what you could tell your earlier self. Well, we're going to answer it early.
Yeah, I'm going to hit it. The earlier self is this. Like, you come to the table and just organically flow and think, oh, I'm fucking crushing it. Well, look, Moss Marketing Group is going to succeed because you're a salesperson. Now, the long-term horizon success of Moss Marketing Group is only going to truly succeed, scale, win, crush it, if you continue to give yourself the tools necessary to know the game better than anybody else.
Which that's something that when I first started, I would say for probably the first, 12 to 18 months, I thought I could just outwork everyone around us.
Can't.
And I thought that, and I mean, it worked for 12 to 18 months. Like, I'm like, we can just outwork everybody. Pretty easy just to outwork people.
Yeah.
Where we come from. Then all of a sudden, as we've started scaling more, I know it's became more into this. It's hit me more in the last like probably 3 to 4 months, and you can ask everyone around us that it's became more to the process and procedures of that scalability and how to keep up with market. Mm-hmm. That we have to be on that cutting edge of the market because that's what got us into the space. That's what got me into this space. So I thought, like, we were in this cutting edge, like, we're before everyone else. We have to stay in front of everyone else. To where when we're doing those things that we're in front of the next person, these companies that, like, we go sit down with someone and they're like, we use so-and-so. I'm like, don't even really give a shit who it is. Like, the companies that they're talking about in Kansas City really give zero shit who the fuck it is. We will blow them out of the water. I'm not even worried about Kansas City companies anymore. Mm-hmm. We are now onto a Midwest regional company space now. Like, we're now in the spot that people are like, well, so-and-so out of Chicago or so-and-so out of Denver. Like, when we started, they're like, so-and-so down the street from you. Like, it's became this thing where now all of a sudden we're not competing with companies down the street from us. Now we're competing with companies in the Midwest region. Mm-hmm. And it's like that push keeps coming, But when we started, we were doing something similar to the people in Kansas City. And now they weren't on that edge of keeping up with it. So it's if you're on that front, you always have to be staying in front of everything, and the marketing space is probably the hardest space for it.
Forever changing, just what, in the past, what?
Logan is just riding away over here.
We had a meeting Monday, literally going over how so many things just changed in the past week.
Yeah, and that's I go home at like, we have our work during the day. Mm-hmm. I go home, I have dinner with my girlfriend, things like that.
Confuse your wife.
Yeah.
Everyone take a drink.
He's like, you're gonna have to come up with something better than girlfriend. Like,
he's not wrong. Like we're gonna have there's gonna be a fiance stage, and there's gonna
be you just need to lock this shit in.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
Like, look,
I know.
I've met lots of guys that had all the talent to crush the shit out of both of us, but they didn't have that rocket fuel of that balance, that trajectory, that girl behind that was like, look, I'm the queen, motherfucker. And so every time you say girlfriend, like, after hearing how much you brag about Madison and how powerful you say she is, like, no, like, I'm going to keep going. No, you're not going to overtalk me here. Like, check this out. You've got a girl that's like the highest fucking producer in her industry, in her area. She's fucking crushing it. She supports you. She's like, not financially, I'm not saying she supports you, but she supports your endeavors. She's encouraging. She's powerful. She has all these accolades.
Security.
Yeah.
Security.
No, you can have me move. It's cool. But like, when you call her girlfriend, like, there's like this,
I
like,
know there's
you take away, you better like figure something out. Like, if she's not your fucking queen, she's your princess, but you better come up with something that dignifies the power that she puts into your world. Like, tell me I'm wrong.
I'll give her a queen, but every queen answers to a king.
Oh, fuck, dude.
And
you're done.
I'm going to say that. But, I mean, I will say that she has been like, I always feel like it's a two-person team that does that.
100%.
And
like,
that's where it's like,
a woman either adds massive amounts of power to what you put into this world, or they take away from it.
Exactly.
And when you say girlfriend, it's like,
I understand.
All right. I've never even, like, I met Madison for like 2 seconds once. You guys are coming to my house, I think, in a couple weeks, right? Like, good. Because I'm going to put her alone in a room with my wife.
Now I need a personal me day. I'm not going to be able to make it.
Like, no, but really, this is, look, everything we've talked about, right? Everything.
I mean, there's nothing more than I love a good podcast.
Let me.
I feel like I came back right at the end of the fight.
Let me say this to you. Like if I say to you, tell me what I'm talking about. OPT, OPM.
That was Chinese.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because most people don't know. Most people
Isn't that like operation position.
Nope, not at all. You guys like
Yeah, right, just-
you won't.
you don't know Chinese,
But
so it's
here's
fine.
the thing. What I was talking about earlier, and this is important to whoever's listening, and for you guys, because look, I don't give a fuck, right? Like, I've made enough money that like I could go Coastville the rest of my life. I'm in the car business. It's a game to me. I push it, I grow it, I scale it. We started in 2016 with 13 cars. We have 120 cars now. Like,
And I mean, you love the car business.
I hate the car business.
Love it so
I
much.
love
So
helping
much.
people. But here's the thing. I understand the rules of the game. OPT, OPT, OPM. Other people's time, other people's talent, other people's money. There's an architecture to the rules of scale that you either understand or you don't. And you said it a minute ago. You said, I work my ass off. I knew I could out hustle everybody. I could outwork them around here. I'm beating people down the street. Now I'm beating people regionally, but there's going to come a point where you hit a ceiling. And the only way to elevate the ceiling is by elevating your education to the rules of the game. And the biggest rule of the game for success in our lives as men is we either have a woman who is depositing power behind us or she's robbing us of it. And if we're going to go out in the room, like if we're going to get up every day and we're going to get on the fucking edge of our bed and we're going to put our feet in our boots and we're going to go to war in the marketplace, we need a fucking woman that doesn't, when we come home from battle, we can say, here's the fucking buffalo I just killed. And she's supporting us. She's cheering us on. Or she's like, well, why didn't you fucking get home with it 15 minutes ago?
Yeah. Which my deal is like
dude,
in my space,
it's the biggest, it's the biggest
like
win you've ever told me. And you downplay it the most.
which I'm not saying it in
My girlfriend, Madison.
which I will say like 100%.
I love you.
and,
This
like,
is your podcast. I'm not clenching.
I know.
I want you
He
to know
comes on
this
here
though.
Coming after me hot, fucking all hot.
Madison sent me 10 G's to have this conversation. She's like, I need you to tell this motherfucker this.
My deal is like, it will happen soon, but we've been together for almost 10 years.
Yeah.
And my deal is I told her,
Okay.
she comes from a divorced family. I come from a divorced family.
That's scary.
We went to a lot of weddings that people are divorced from, everything like that. And I told her, I'm like, I feel like it's something that's very given out, very willy-nilly. Like, I go hand out candy in a van about the same as guys are handing out marriages nowadays.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like it's taken as serious as it was
I agree.
50 to 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, people got married, that's what they did.
Yeah.
We watch grandparents now get married, and now grandparents are dying, and they're celebrating their 60th anniversary, their 70th anniversary. It's just crazy, like what they're experiencing. I have a feeling in another 60 years it's not going to be the same.
Bro, I agree.
It's one of those things that I told her, I'm like, I will ask that question one time in my life. I go, there's certain things I just have it's something I've been very certain about for a long time, but it's also something that I will ask one time in my life.
I'm not trying to talk you into asking her.
I feel like we turned this into a business, into a marriage podcast.
No, it needs to be.
Yeah.
He's not asking you; he's pressuring you.
Yeah, now I feel like a lot of
Have you been sold yet?
I mean, you love her, right?
100%, 200%. But now I've ended up into a marriage counseling facility here.
So,
And how did that make you feel?
yeah,
I feel wonderful.
Like, bro, look, I'm not trying to suggest that you marry. Like, that's not my point.
No,
My-
I'm 100% okay with that.
Yeah, my point is that like if the most, like, the biggest light you can shine, like, I've seen some of the guys you've had on the podcast, right? Think about them. The guys that are the most successful, how do they talk about their significant other?
Oh, it's that
Hype
it
'em.
factor.
What? It's what?
Hype him.
Hype them.
Yep.
Like, can you envision a path? So this is my challenge to you, bro. Like this is where I'm going.
Look at me. Straight in my eye.
Look, you're married.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me I'm wrong.
Good job, Ricky.
Yeah, Ricky's on team. Like, lock that
married
shit
side
in.
of the
Married
Yes.
side of the couch.
All
Not
right.
married side of the couch.
But here's the thing. I'm not, like, do I seem like the kind of guy that would refer to my wife as the
You're
old
the kind of lady.
Come on.
It's
Am I
2022.
am I the kind of, I identify as a the she, and an it. That's my, the, she, and it. I am the shit. All right. That's how I identify. All right. So, but could you imagine me referring to my queen as my old lady?
No.
Okay. Well, me calling my wife my old lady rings similar to my soul as you calling Madison your girlfriend.
I definitely do not disagree with that.
Yeah. That's all I'm saying.
I definitely do not disagree with so Madison and
We're not talking about camels right now, but we're talking about some shit that's important.
So definitely into when she speaks on behalf of her clients, things like that.
Yeah.
It's very hard to say we've created this. She's created a real estate empire. I'm building this marketing empire. We've bought the houses, the cars, everything else that goes with it.
You live in the same house?
Yes.
Sleep in the same bed?
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead. Keep going with what you're saying.
He's going to get kicked. I'm going to hire security for shit just like this. But it's one
Tell
of
me
those.
I'm wrong.
But it's one of those things that, once again, that I feel like that is the most. I feel like I'm sure about it, but it's also and she totally hates when I even speak on this because she's like, "You're so sure about why you knew it 5 years ago." Mm-hmm. I don't disagree. But it's one of those things that.
They gave up on time.
Yeah.
They just erased all the time.
But it's one of those things that I feel like it's so rushed in today's world.
I agree.
And I feel like
that you're like, fuck it, 20 years.
I feel like still, even I'm 28 years old, I feel like we're still kids.
Yeah.
But
you're not.
We're not in the fact of building businesses and doing
Right.
all this other things. And when we graduated college, we go home to live with my dad, and I pretty much looked at her. I go, "I'll buy you a house or I'll buy you a ring." And at that point, that's all I had. Right when I graduated college, I had some money I had put aside. I'm like, I can either put a down payment on a house or I can buy you a ring.
And she sold real estate. She was just like, we're going to buy that house because mama needs to be paid.
She wasn't in real estate.
Oh, she wasn't.
At that point, she wasn't even in it yet. And she was like, she goes, "I would like a house. I'd like to have our own space."
Yeah, nice.
And of course, it came very close to that point again. And then it was I step away from the most stable thing that we've had.
Yeah.
But it's also, she's always been that person that's right there next to me, that when that time came, she didn't tell me no. I feel like there's a lot of times that people have that partner that's that's the unknown. Don't go for it.
Right. That's my point.
And she was the first one that's
yeah.
if I'm going to bet on anyone, she goes, "I'm betting on you." She goes, "We're going fucking big time. Let's do it."
Dude, that's
And
the thing.
it's 100%. And I'm like, she's always that person, and I'll 100%. But it's also I've never thought of it differently because of a ring.
No,
And
so
we look at things. I look at we have people that are married that everyone that we went to college with and everything, they just assume we're married. It doesn't even look. It's not even viewed anything.
Even
differently.
clients will sit there. They're like, "So is Dane's wife going to be there?" I'm like, "Yep."
She'll be there.
no,
I'm
so
not even going to correct you.
But no, and look, to me, it's not about the actual act of the ring in your particular situation. For me, it's the way that the conversation's postured.
Yeah.
Like you've got what, I don't know, 10,000 people that log on, listen to this podcast or whatever that number is, right? There's 10,000 people that
I'd say about 1,000, 2,000 weekly.
okay. So a couple thousand people a week that get on and hear you say my girlfriend. And I think that really just takes away from the power. So
She has a lot more power than a girlfriend.
right. Selfless plug here. Again, last one. I do
Security is
my
going to be
favorite
the next plug.
my favorite podcast that I did.
You just do a smiley face. He didn't draw a fucking
Yeah,
time.
no, he's done. That's what I'm saying. My
thought he was about to drop
my
middle
favorite
finger.
podcast that I did was called Protect the Queen. And the thing about a queen is that when there's a king who's going to war every day, she's got a 6. She's got a 6. You're obviously building an empire, which means inside of that empire, you're the king. And so whenever a king says, get over here, you fucking jester, and get me girlfriend. What the fuck are we talking about here? Right? you've got a queen.
Yes.
Whether she has a ring or not yet doesn't matter.
Exactly. And it's
time to switch lingo.
I'm going to run this straight into a chess game.
All right. I like it.
You go into a chess game, a king can only move one spot.
Who's the most powerful fucker on the board?
Is a queen.
Exactly.
Which I
It's
understand.
so true.
I understand that. But she gives the most power to the king.
She gives the most protection to the king.
Exactly. She is the only one on the board that can do anything.
Yeah. She has something. Girls have something we don't have. They have intuition. Their guts tell them something that guys can't ever tune into.
Yep.
Like and like if she would have saw something in you, or maybe sensed a lack in your ability, she would have expressed it differently. But she was like, "I bet on you."
Which it's exactly the point of. I'm the first one. Like I love criticism. I do. Like I always want to get better.
Security.
Which I always want to get to that next point, that next level, whatever it is, and 100% understand that I'm not perfect now. Right now, I know on the podcast I say like a lot. Like that is my thing that I watch my videos. It's like my biggest fault. I watch this stuff all the time.
Right.
She tells me way before I ever even understand that it's a fault.
She tells you, and then you realize it's a fault.
Right.
But it's something that's and it's running in my. You're just gonna take my mic away. Just take it away. I don't mean
Just take it.
But you watch that stuff all the time, and you see what someone else can notice, and you can take what maybe 5 years of progression, and if you have that person that will tell you that the first time, you can streamline it down to maybe 3 months of progression.
Right.
And it's just something that you have to have those people in your corner that really aren't the yes men, yes woman, whatever it is.
Don't worry. I'll tell you when you're wrong.
Bro, like I think the two most powerful takeaways from this entire conversation, right? Like if you
Munsterman plugged his podcast.
What's it called?
Bulletproof Mafia.
The Bulletproof Mafia.
We got that.
It's on iTunes. Michael Munsterman. Protect the Queen.
That's number one.
Yeah.
Go watch Protect the Queen.
No, but like really, like, and I'm saying this to you because like you and I are involved in Edit Yeti together.
Correct.
And we haven't really talked about that much. So like I'm saying this to you because I want you to win in the world. Like for you to hit that top ceiling, for you to be the guy that they write books about and tell stories about, you have to learn the architecture of the game. And when I was like the biggest lesson that you talked to me about, oh, well, how'd you make your first million? Or, oh, how'd you break 30 million? How'd you break 50 million? How'd you go from being in your living room to having 500 employees, coast to coast, 3 distribution centers, running a multinational import-export company while handling big box retail and distribution into stores? And I could tell you all of that. But the thing that clicked the most, that was the most powerful, and the reason that I got in the car business because I wanted to come to Kansas City and get my bearings. And I knew I could sell, and I knew I could make money. I knew I could win in that game long enough for me to decide what I wanted to do next. And the reason for that is because I understand the rules. I understand the architecture of business. I understand the architecture of enterprise. I understand the architecture of value in exchange for profit and revenue. And so for me, like the thing that when we leave here that I want you guys to lay in bed and think, that motherfucker was nuts, but what was he talking about, is if you learn the rules better than anybody else, you win at the game 100% of the time. It's not about being the best salesperson. It's not about being like the best like closer. Those are important skills. But now, as entrepreneurs, as guys who are building a scalable company like Edit Yeti, I truly believe $100 million company opportunity there.
100%. And that's
so you got to learn the rules better than everybody else so that you can crush that.
And that's, I feel like when I went into the marketing space, I'm doing the same thing in that space, is I go home and I research everything else that we're competing against.
Yeah, but not even industry specific. It doesn't matter.
But it's also like, that's the thing is though, like when you watch I'm trying to think of something that even makes like relevant sense to it, but it's when you have 99 people that go this way. Same thing that when we came into Moss Marketing Group and everyone is doing this and we went this way.
Sure.
Everyone thought we were fucking crazy. Mm-hmm. And I was fine with that. I want to be the crazy one. We're going to go this way. Everyone's like, that's a terrible idea. Don't do it, whatever it is. You go that way. Edit Yeti, there's certain people out there that are doing the same kind of concept.
Similar.
Their marketing purposes, the way that they're advertising it, everything else like that is completely wrong.
Right.
So that's the acquisition of new clientele. When you're super piss poor at acquiring that new clientele, business model is very hard.
Right.
So now all of a sudden it's like you have 5 people going left, and every person that comes into market's like, hey, you know what, we're going to do the same thing that these people are doing. They just keep jumping on that same train that's going this way. It's like, how do we build a train and do it to where it goes that way?
While operating inside of the bounds of the rules of scale.
Yes. And then all of a sudden you scale that and you build it. Like Moss Marketing Group, since it's open, we've had, I'd say 25 months, 26 months now since we've been open of collecting checks and actually being a business. There's been 2 months where it went south. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not going to hide that or anything. 2 months of when we finally hit that level of like where I really felt like we were competing in the space. I'm like, you know what, we've made, like, I felt like that, like we made it. We're competing with the big dogs now. Like we're competing with the big names of Kansas City. I feel like we need to be doing things like they're doing. So I felt like I had this shift in mind of I needed this different outlook of mimicking what they were doing.
Right.
I hadn't played in that space, so I was like, all of a sudden, I felt like
we're playing in corporate.
I was like, also, like we're there. Like,
right.
This is what we dreamed of. We're there. Now we need to match level with them. So then I shift all of our content. I shift everything that we're doing to match level with them. It was the worst 60 days that Moss Marketing Group has had. And we went straight down. What we had done, everything up, went straight down 60 days. And once again, Madison, I come home.
Your girlfriend?
Yep.
Future. That's now you calling it out.
I'm just going to start saying
on purpose.
I'm just going to start saying future wife.
There you go.
But
your queen.
Yep. My queen. I go home and I'm talking to her and I'm like, I don't know what's happening, but just nothing's right. I go, everything has been perfect since day one, isn't right now. I'm like, the last 2 months, everything is just terrible.
What'd she drop on you?
She goes, what you have done to lead you up to where you have, what you have done to date has been 100% on what you wanted to do. And she goes, when everyone was one way, you did everything differently. She goes, why are you going to match what everyone else is doing? She goes, that's what brought you into that realm. She goes, now bypass all those people with what you're going to do and keep doing it your way.
Right.
I shifted everything right away, and it's like...
When he says right away, he came in the next morning. He's like,
next morning, like,
we're going in.
Meeting.
He's like,
meeting.
We're changing everything.
Like, really,
is that his Hitler move? Meeting.
Like, it's literally like one of those things, like, when I have that meeting and it, like, whatever it is...
Yeah.
It's like at that point.
Yeah.
We don't need to keep pushing on what we're doing. We're going to change everything. And I changed our video style. I changed everything that we had done to try to match what everyone else was doing. Mm-hmm. We don't need to be everyone else.
No, you're carving your segment of the market out by you.
Yeah, and that's where I want, when people see what we do, they know it's us.
Yeah.
They know that we're different. They know that is our lane.
Yeah.
And that's what built us where we are. That's what's going to build us way past what everyone else is. Oops, up. He's going to run out of... I'm hoping that marker has enough ink.
He got a different color. It's black. It was blue. Now it's black. All right. So, look.
I mean, with you.
Yeah.
We're gonna have another podcast.
Are we?
For sure.
Are you ever going to invite me back?
Maybe the next time.
At the after podcast, he's gonna be like, you fucking bring that shit up again.
I will cut you.
Hopefully next time it can be like when I bring up Madison, it's like a wife thing, maybe.
Yeah, no, let's bring the wives on.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
That could be something.
Yeah.
We bring Madison and Joy on. That'd be great.
It would be fire.
Hey, Ricky, I think they're saying we're ex-Nate.
I think we're getting the boot
I think what he's saying is you guys need 2 more mics.
or that.
4-person podcast, 6-person podcast.
So that's starting to sound like a lot of work on my end.
Ricky's like,
Ricky's like, I'll bow out.
So then we need like more cameras.
Ricky's like, when I went out, that sounded much easier.
Ricky's like, I know we have 3 cameras right now. I don't know if I want like.
No, dude,
5.
look. Thanks so much for having me. I genuinely appreciate
much
it.
for coming on.
This is fun. I hope that I didn't go too far, but dude, like I care about this. I like this is the thing that scratches my itch.
100%.
I'm not chasing a dollar anymore, right? Like for me, I want guys who are hustling, grinding, like they're doing their thing. I want them to win. Like I want to be profitable in that pursuit, but I also want like what I mentioned to you, right? Like that other dealer said to me, you could put a dealership right across the road from me. There's enough business. There's enough win for everybody.
Yeah.
Hey,
And
the
that's-
great news is they're printing more money and money every day.
Every day. Thank you. I'm not going to say thank you to that guy.
There's so much money out there to be had, and any person, entrepreneur, business owner, whoever they are, I'm going to say that there's unlimited amount of money out there to go get.
Do you have a sponsor called Dalton?
Dalton?
Dalton's
somewhere around here.
Well, I see Dalton Sticks. And so he wrote that above our time. So I'm wondering, do you have
That's for when Dane calls like, hey, we're out.
Yeah,
Dalton
so
Sticks.
when I call the end of it, I got to know who's over at the podcast. So our sticks are on the other side of Ricky and Michael.
what kind of a stick?
Well, so
So
there's
that's
actually
the-
no
the-
sticks. I don't know where that
It's
came
actually
from.
just a button.
It's more a soundboard.
I have just come to call that the sticks.
All right. It
And-
means that we're at the end and Dalton's the trigger man.
Yeah, Dalton. So I have to know who I. So Ricky a lot of times is like, when it comes to Key Ricky, he's over there. I have to know who's over there because like one of the times I called someone
the last time.
and then I see. So being these like
Translucent.
translucent cubes
No,
over
you
here,
can see
I see some hands over there. I see some.
I think
see
somebody's
somebody-
there.
Somebody's flipping us off from over there. So it's,
They obviously don't know how sensitive I am. Get in here. Let's talk about your queen.
let's go. It's go time.
Right now.
Who's ready to sit in the hot seat?
Yeah, but anyone that wants a hot seat can have
Happy
a hot seat.
llama, sad llama, totally rad llama.
But in the future, we're definitely gonna have more podcasts. I mean, the amount of business about the amount of just everything we can talk
Yeah.
with you is endless.
You want to go 3 hours?
Yeah, I mean, we can have a 3-hour podcast. We're gonna have a lot of pee breaks, like, but
It was enjoyable.
I mean, I can't thank you enough for coming
Yeah,
on.
dude.
And
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Ricky. Thank you, Dre.
Thank you, Dalton.
Dalton, someone over
Thank
there
you, Dalton.
With the sticks.
flipping us off. But I'm gonna say this is the end to the M3 podcast for today. So Key Dalton.
Thanks for listening to the M3 Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Want to learn more? Check us out on Instagram at Moss Marketing Group, on Facebook at Moss Marketing 58, or on our website at mossmarketinggroup.com.